I'm Chiara Colazzo, live from Fox 5 News, and today's main story is coverage on the Dust Bowl and its effect on the American people. The beginning of this devastating Dust Bowl has had a huge impact on the people of the Great Plains. The simplest acts of life, breathing, eating a meal, even taking a walk, are no longer simple. Children are wearing dust masks to and from school, and women are hanging wet sheets over their windows in a futile attempt to stop the dirt. The skies could darken for days, and even the best sealed homes have a layer of dust sitting on top of their furniture. In most places, the dust falls like snow, and farmers are watching helplessly as their crops vanish before their eyes. The effects of the Dust Bowl, such as the drought, wind-blown dust, and agricultural decline, are affecting northern United States. I'm here with Farmer Billy today, whose home, farm, and family have been affected by the Dust Bowl. Hi Billy, how have you been holding up? I understand that your fields have completely dried up.
It's been very hard for me and my family to adjust to these crazy conditions. I spent years creating my fields, and I've made a living off of my crops, and without them, it's very hard to support my family.
How has your daily routine changed?
I used to wake up early every morning to work on these fields, and now there's nothing left for me to work on, and my family has to ration our food constantly and clean out as much dust as we can.
How are things looking for your field right now?
I honestly couldn't even tell you. All I see is the darkness. I've lost all hope.
And now a message from our sponsors.
Life is so much easier with Scotch tape. I can stick stuff on my walls, stick stuff on my mirrors, stick stuff on my face. Get your Scotch tape today!
In sports-related news, Babe Ruth was on a roll with the Yankees this season. The team faced the Chicago Cubs in the 1932 World Series. The Yankees swept the Cubs and are now the official champions of the 1932 baseball season. Babe Ruth finished off the season with 41 home runs and 137 RBIs. During Game 3 of the series, Ruth went up to bat and gestured to the deepest part of the park in center field, predicting a home run. Ruth did not fail to let the fans down and hit a straightaway home run. I guess he's having a better year than Hoover after all. Congrats to Ruth and the Yankees overall on their win. That's all for sports. Let's go back to Megan and Caroline in the studio.
Good evening, New York City. From Fox 5 Studios, I'm Caroline Kabasco.
And I'm Megan Seitzma. And today our first story will be about the election of 1932. The campaigns for the election of 1932 are beginning to start as Hoover takes on the new Democratic opponent of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt argues in his campaigns that the government should step in and help the economy because of their obligation to protect welfare, well-being, and existence of the U.S. citizens. Meanwhile, Hoover is strongly campaigning opposition to the government interference with the economy. He argues that freedom of the government will spur progress. Hoover also criticizes Roosevelt's New Deal as ruining American principle and what our country was built on. Make sure to tune in to Fox 5 News for updates on the election and the results.
In other news, an estimated 43,000 marchers assembled in Washington, D.C. throughout the summer to demand immediate cash payments of their service certificates. The World War Adjusted Compensation Act of 1934 had awarded them bonuses in the form of certificates which they would not be able to redeem until 1945. On July 28, 1932, U.S. Attorney General William D. Mitchell ordered that the veterans be removed from all government property. Washington police began to fight off the resistance. Shots were fired and 2 veterans were wounded and later died. Veterans were also shot dead at other locations during the demonstration. President Herbert Hoover then ordered the Army to clear out the veterans' campsite. The bonus Army marchers, along with their wives and children, were driven out, while their shelters and belongings burned.
Many industrial strides are being made in the 1930s, but the greatest of them all is the building of the George Washington Bridge. Commuting from New Jersey into New York City became a big issue. They were often waiting for the ferries that lasted hours to take workers across the Hudson River. In 1925, both New Jersey and New York passed legislation authorizing a Hudson River bridge. In 1926, each state came through with its promised $5 million to loan to the authority, and bonds were issued for $50 million more, for a total budget of $60 million to build the bridge. On September 27, 1927, grounds were formally broken for the George Washington Bridge on both sides of the Hudson. Work began immediately on the foundations for the Great Towers. The bridge was inaugurated in 1931.
For this week's editorial, I'll be focusing on Hoover's attempt to get the economy back on track. It is evident that the American people need help from the government during these difficult times. Government aid is their last resort to live a normal life again. However, Hoover has been providing indirect relief rather than direct relief from the people. Instead of spending money to get the economy started and giving Americans money, Hoover is giving out loans and holding back on government aid. It is wrong of him to make Americans eventually pay these loans back while they have other expenses that are through the roof. The obligation of the government is to ensure the welfare of the American people, not to hold them to expectations during these difficult times. Hoover is taking the wrong objective towards solving the economic devastation in the U.S. The people are in desperate need of money and are turning to the government for help. However, Hoover is standing back and letting them fend for themselves. President Hoover needs to aid the American people during these rough times and show that he, along with the government, care for their well-being and the prosperity of the United States as a whole.